Let's go, let's go, let's go. Aye, people wanna hate every day, it's okay.
All right, welcome back, Reckless Success. Tonight we got my beautiful wife Ellie on.
Hello.
Everybody loves Ellie. So we've been real busy, but I want to start with a couple stories from back in the day.
Yeah, you haven't really done stories in a minute.
I haven't, but we thought of, or I came up with some stories just talking with Lisa, and she's like, "You should tell those." But another thing I done was I found my motion of discovery from when I went to prison,
Oh yeah.
and I found that yesterday.
He found it while he cleaned the garage last, or I guess it was like January after Christmas. And I have a lot of totes of all the holidays. Like I decorate for Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, all the things. And Jesse was like, I'm cleaning this garage and put all the decor in one like narrow closet. And him and Mason didn't think it through with like the seasons that were coming. So all the Christmas was the closest. And I'm like, okay, now I need to dig out fall. Like now
Yeah,
so he had
I
to
had to
dig
take everything out.
everything out. But in the process of digging all the totes out, he found his motion of discovery, which is
Which
what?
is when you go to prison, federal prison, then they've got to give you all the information of people that have told on you. And my motion of discovery was like 600 pages, but I'm only in like two paragraphs.
That's so crazy.
And this is dating back to 2000. Some of it was like 98.
What?
Yeah.
It went back that far?
Yeah.
You're like a kid then.
It starts with like this guy tells on this guy, and it just goes in a
Like
big
a family
circle.
tree. Like
Yeah,
it just keeps
like a
on
big
going.
family tree. So I was reading, and I knew all the people in it,
Yeah.
and I just had forgot who all told. I'm sure I've got people on my Facebook that I didn't realize were telling on me or
Yeah.
whatnot. And so I dug into that yesterday, and it went on for, it was so crazy. It went
Hundreds
on
of
for
people.
like years. Like this guy tells, and then eventually it gets to my crew that was running around, and my crew was all, it was crazy. They were telling, and not only telling on their own family
And details. Like
and
stuff they probably didn't
details.
even need to tell.
Right. And but then I found one of the guys that told on me. I got indicted in May, and the guy, I knocked his teeth
Of oh
out.
09.
Yeah, I got in a fight with the guy at my house, and I kneed him in the face. And when I kneed him, like six teeth shoot out of his head. And he got indicted. He got picked up in March. So he was the coffin and the nail, because I had been
Nail in the
clean,
coffin.
nail in the coffin. I had been clean for so long,
Right.
for the
For the
most
most
part.
part.
Yeah, I wasn't doing anything with manufacturing
And
or
they just
anything like
needed
that.
one more person to tell on you, and then they were like,
Yes.
got him.
And that guy told on everybody. It was crazy. Like, why? And he's back around. Well, he went back to prison. He's back around.
I think that's the worst part is that majority of the people that were in your paperwork, they told on everybody, which I mean, it is what it is, but got everyone else in trouble, even people like you that had changed. And then they went to prison and came out and they went straight back, like to
Yeah,
that life. Like they didn't even try to have a clean life. They just,
right.
as far as you could tell, went straight back to drug use and stuff and living a, thieving bad life. And it's like,
The
dang
craziest
it.
part is on mine was the guy that was the nail in the coffin for me. In his like telling, in his tattletale, there's like three times where he messes up and he's like, it's contradicting what he's saying.
Right.
But like he said that I gave him 2 cups of anhydrous every day for like a year.
It doesn't even make
It doesn't
sense.
even make sense. Like, who does that? Why wouldn't you
Right.
just get more at one time or
Yeah.
whatever? None of that happened. I wish I could talk to the detective that arrested me and be like, dude, that was
Right.
bullshit. 'Cause
Right.
that didn't even happen. Um, but anyways, so what was I gonna say? Yeah, I knocked his teeth out. He gets indicted. He tells on everybody. I wasn't even messing around, nothing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he even starts off saying that we never got along. Another
Right.
guy that told on me, I beat up one time, and he said we never got along.
Right.
And they both exaggerated what they had seen. Yes, I did the stuff that they
Mm-hmm.
indicted me for, but these guys just like jumped on hearsay to get out. Whatever.
It's like a game of telephone. Like they're embellishing the story and making it sound worse because they want to get off. So like if
Right.
I can make him look really way worse than me and get him in trouble, they'll give you more time off. It's probably the
Right.
thought process.
Well, and another thing that was blowing my mind was how many people were in there that didn't get indicted.
Right.
There was like
Repetitive, like,
yeah, that have no clue that they were even in the talk with the feds.
right.
Like these are business owners all around our
Yeah,
area.
people that luckily straightened up
They
eventually,
straightened up and they got out of that lifestyle. But as I was
but
looking
it
through
wouldn't
this
have taken
motion from
much.
back in '03, I'm like, this dude's in there? Like, this dude's a well-known business person.
Yeah.
This guy. And they probably never had no clue. They never got in trouble, but they
Hmm.
had no clue how close they were to
It was
getting that knock on the
crazy,
door.
right? Well, and Jesse was saying it was crazy reading all the stories of people telling on themselves too, like as they're explaining their
Yeah,
story and implicating friends, but like all of the theft of anhydrous and Sudafed pills and going into all these states
it
and
was
people, because
crazy.
it's like their whole statement was in Jesse's paperwork of what those people did. It
Right.
had nothing to do with him. It's just it was like he said, the whole chain. So he's like, it is just, I can't imagine how the police had their hands full
Oh
because it
man.
was like just a free for all. Like there
Yeah.
was so much
There was
addiction.
guys on there talking about going to Marion FS, and it's got like the police report. So whenever these guys would get in trouble, it also has the police report from the time they got caught doing different things. And I just, it was like reading a book. I'm reading about this guy.
Right.
He worked at a body shop, and they didn't have no way to fill a tank. So they went to the body shop where the owner had no clue. They cooked meth in this body
Ugh.
shop and then took an air tank, got dropped off in Marion to go steal anhydrous, and the cops pulled in and chased them off. And they got them the next morning because they had hid in the woods.
Oh
And
my
it
God.
says that two guys were like laying on top of each other, like trying to hide, and they fell asleep. Then they wake up and they make it out to the road and they see a cop creeping by. The cop didn't see him. Luckily, the cops got him later on down, a couple hours later. But yeah, the dude was telling on himself, and he said that he'd been there the past 3 nights in a row. So instead of like getting enough to just like back when we would mess around, we'd always bulk up and have stuff
Right.
to last a long time.
That's so
But there were
bizarre.
so many people just doing in like little bitty, enough cooking enough meth just to get them high for a couple days or a day. It
Seems
wasn't.
like a lot of work for
It
like that
seems like
short
a
amount
lot
of
of work.
time.
Yeah. But yeah, he said he was there for the last 3 nights in a row. Like, I bet the cops in 2000 to 2004 had their hands so full of this stuff, which you never hear about it now
Yeah.
because they passed a law where you have to sign to get Sudafed, which
Like it's
is
behind the pharmacist counter
it's behind the counter.
and you have
But
to
at this
sign for it.
time that I was reading about, and I remember this time, they would just have them at the gas station shelves, like where you go in the gas station, go down a few shelves, and there's like the
Uh,
medication.
because they didn't realize people were using it to make drugs,
They
I
had
guess.
to have, though. I remember one time a guy that I knew
Or they probably didn't know how to like to get a
didn't know how
law
to, yeah,
to like how do you take hold of that and get it out of the aisle of the medicine? Like
right.
put something behind a pharmacist counter where you have to sign off. That's a whole thing, and then have a computer log. Like that's a
Mhm.
big ordeal to do all
I
that.
remember a guy going in Motomart, a gas station that's around here. Same gas station. A guy would go in and come out with like 12 boxes
Oh
that would
my
be on the
God.
shelf, and then go back in the next morning and the shelf would be stocked again. They would just constantly steal them. I mean, surely the gas station was getting covered somehow, or they wouldn't have kept putting them out.
Right, that's so
You know what I
crazy.
mean? And the guy was talking about how like he had $3 in gas, and when he went in to pay, he stole 10 boxes of Sudafed off the shelf
Oh my
and a
God.
beer.
Oh Lord.
So it just had me all wrapped up. And it's hard to think now. I'm 40, and this all went down like 22 years ago. But it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Like when I was
Hmm.
reading this, it's like 2001, 2002, and I'm like, man, that seems like a lifetime ago.
It was.
But at that time, I felt like the same way, and I kind of looked the same.
Right?
So rather I haven't aged, or
I think you're aging very gracefully.
I do
I
too.
think you look very young.
Thank you. So, so one of my stories I was telling Lisa was when I first started getting around this stuff, I was going to this place called the Compound, and there was like 4 or 5 trailers. None of them probably had water or power, and it
So
was like
weird.
people living in them, and it was weird. Yeah, there was like families living in them, and there was this guy cooking out in the barn, and me and a girl from Carterville, who her dad was like, a prominent member of the community,
Mm-hmm.
and he probably had no clue his daughter was even involved in the drugs.
Right. Because you guys are
We
teenagers.
were
Like you
teenagers,
hung out at
yeah,
the compound when you were like 16, you said?
yeah,
15, 16, like young.
yeah. So we didn't have no money for food or anything, and this particular girl was real good at this time of going through fast food places And she'd be like, yeah, you messed up my order. And she'd get like 3 number 4s, 2 number 2s, whatever, you know. And they would give us sacks of food. And we'd done that so much until they like, we'd burnt every fast food place around. We just go get free food.
That's
They
how
just
you'd
give it to
eat.
us.
Call
That's
and
how
be
we'd
like,
eat.
I just picked up my order and it's messed up.
Yeah. I remember the same girl one time. We went to this Huck's over by Ray Fosse or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in
Ray
Marion?
Fosse Park, yeah.
Yeah. And she stole gas. Like and it's like so obvious because there's like 4 rows of pumps and we park at the far one, you know. And she's driving, and this particular girl wasn't very smart. And she fills up and she takes off across, just cuts across 13, goes behind the park and gets back there. And it's like one way in, one way out.
Oh
So we're
my
back
God.
there for like 5 minutes, like driving
Stuck in the
around.
park.
Well, behind it even.
That
Like
is
there was
so
a
funny.
neighborhood back there that she went into.
Dead end.
Yeah, and it went down, like
she
came
get
to a
caught?
cul-de-sac. No, it came to a cul-de-sac. So like we come back out and she takes a right and goes right and we go down this
Good
cul-de-sac.
Lord.
I'm like, oh my God, you got to go back out to 13 where we just ran from. That time we got away. So I guess her dad starts catching on that she's doing bad
Mm.
and just quit making her car payment or whatever.
Oh,
So the tow man's after her. This episode's about the tow man,
the Tow Chronicles.
the tow chronicles.
You have so many experiences with tow businesses, and it's funny because I like never did. You just have like
Right.
funny, like so many stories where, oh, this tow guy and that tow guy, and it's like, how do you know all these tow people? But anyway,
Right.
you and this
So
girl.
we were at the compound, and this other guy I know, he gave her like $250 or something to borrow her car. And he's like, go with me, let's go up to Benton. So we leave, and when we would take this girl's car, like we would just drive the dog shit out of it. I mean, we're methed out, just you know, driving crazy. And the tow man, the repo man, was after her car, and he'd been waiting on us. So we get out on Sturts Road, and we look back. He's going like 75, you know. And we
The
look
tow
back, and
truck.
there's this tow truck like right on our ass, like one of those
On
scary
country
movies.
roads.
Yeah, this long country road, like a scary movie. He's right on our ass. And I remember right after Party Bridge, we cut to the south and went off in the field. Like we're in this little front wheel drive car.
Oh my God.
I got another story about our dad's truck. But anyways, we outran the tow truck, but she got it repoed a few days
The
later.
fact that he saw you and was like, "Er."
Yeah, we were in a high speed chase. After she got her car impounded or towed away, then her dad would start letting her borrow his
Oh
truck,
my
which was
God.
like a little V6 Dodge Dakota.
These enabling parents.
Yes, or it might have been like a V8, but it was a Dodge Dakota. And I remember one time we were on Sterrett Road and it was snowing real bad, like a foot of snow. And I'm just out blazing through the field, just wow, wow, like hitting snow drifts, snow's coming over the truck. This
Oh my
poor girl's dad had no clue that a couple crackheads are out just driving the shit out of his truck.
Ah.
So yeah, that was before I get too far off. Another time from Sterrett Road, this is like a road in Williamson County where it's got a bridge called the Party Bridge,
In the middle of nowhere.
middle of nowhere. I might have told this story, but one of the guys that I would run with had stolen a YZF 450 four-wheeler, and I always had a Raptor that was actually mine. So he calls me up. He's in West Frankfort, and he's like, "Hey, let's go ride." Well, it's like 20 minutes away, so I shoot over there, just riding down the roads like it's nothing. I might have told this one, and I get there, and it's hot as hell that day, and I always wore a helmet when I rode for many different reasons, but safety was one of them. Two, I didn't want like anybody seeing who I was.
Yeah.
And we're about to pull out of the driveway, and I was hot, and I took my helmet off, and I set it on the tailgate of a truck that was sitting there. And he looks at me, and he's like, he takes his helmet off. And we pulled out of the driveway, line up in the road, because he's like talking how fast his four-wheeler is.
Oh God.
And we line up because we're going to race. And when we took off, like we're going first, second, third gear, we're picking up some speed. We're probably going like 45, you know, third gear, getting going. And he got a little ahead of me. Well, I wasn't going to let that happen, so I gave him a little bump, but my front tire went between his two tires, and when it did, it turned his four-wheeler sideways
What?
and rolled and shot this guy like 30 feet through the air. I'm like going, I bump into him. It wasn't intentional, but I'm sorry it happened, but he shoots through the air, no helmet, and when he landed, he scorpioned on an oil and chip road.
Oh.
And when I pulled up to him, like he hit hard, and I pulled up to him, And he was like, oh, and he opened his mouth and it was just full of like rocks from
Oh
all
my
the side of the road,
God.
you know? And I'm like, oh shit, you're hurt. Like he was hurt. And I'm like, damn, what do I do here? Because we've done made it probably like 100 yards away from the house we're at. So I'm like, I'll be back. I take my four-wheeler back to the house. I run back down the road. I look, he's still all messed up. He might, I don't know if at this point he's knocked out or what, but like his head's swelling up.
Oh
I'm like,
God.
okay. So I get to his stolen
Oh
four-wheeler.
right, because you're like call the
I ain't gonna call for
cops.
help because
Oh
the
my
dude's on a stolen
God.
four-wheeler. I mean,
Oh
that's more
God.
important to make sure he doesn't get in trouble. So then I
Oh,
get that four-wheeler, I ride it back to the house, and then I call the ambulance and I took off because like I ain't
miraculously.
sticking around. And they airbagged him out of there to St. Louis. It was bad.
Was he okay? Like what happened to him?
He was in St. Louis for a week or so. He was okay.
But he recovered. He was
Yeah,
fine.
you know him. He's still around.
Oh,
Yeah,
this guy went on to be a head drug dealer partier for the rest of his life. I
yeah,
feel like he's still
yeah.
alive.
He's still going
I feel
hard.
like he's yeah,
More power to you. He
didn't
still
phase him
goes.
too much.
No, it didn't.
Good
Well,
Lord.
maybe that's why he's done that.
Goodness, yeah.
So yeah, I call the ambulance. Helicopter ends up coming and getting him. Well, I'm like, all right, I'm mosey back home, and I'm coming down Sterrett's Road, and I'm wide open because this is like 4 or 5 mile long straight road, and I'm just wide open. I was going like 80, probably 80 something, and I look back, and when I look back, there's a car right on my ass, and I'm like, damn.
Whoa.
And I get right past Party Bridge, and there was a trail that went off into the woods. So like I was ready to cut off into the woods, but I wanted to see what was going on with this car. So I pull up right by the trail and I stop, and the four-wheeler's still running. This car pulls up. Guy flips out his U.S. Marshal badge and he's like,
What?
U.S. Marshal. And I could have ran right then, but I was like, what's up? And he's like, we're, there's a lot of meth cooking going on in this area. And I was like, buddy, I live right there. And I pointed to a house that's just right there. And I was like, I just ride my four-wheeler around here. I live right there. And I gave him some bogus name. He knew I was gonna take off on him,
Right.
and he was like, "Well, just you're going way too fast on that road." And I was like, "I thought I was out here by myself." I was like, "I'm
Oh
sorry."
my God.
And he took off, and I went up into the woods. But yeah, it was just a random stop by a
That's
U.S.
so
Marshal.
weird. Right after
My
that
buddy's
wreck.
getting
Yeah, like
evac.
there's a helicopter down the
Yeah,
road. That's bizarre.
yeah. They thought I'd done it on purpose because he was in front of me. Like they were mad at me for a little bit. I went to
If you
St.
were
Louis to see
you were
him.
trying to wreck him or something.
Yeah, but he got in front of me. So I mean, Rubbin's racing, so it is what it is. And right around that same time is when I come over to our buddy Mikey's in Heron.
Hmm.
And at this time, we didn't have like cell phones that recorded like cameras and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I had like an old school, camcorder.
Recorder.
And I was trying, no, I taped it between my handlebars and I rode over there and we watched the footage and it was all like vibrating and stuff. So I told another guy, one of the guys that told on me, I was like, he was always riding on back to do different shit. And I was like, you hold the camera and we'll go get some footage of cops chasing us. This is the middle of the daytime. He was playing video games at the time. And he's like, yeah, sure. So we come down Park Avenue in Heron, middle of the day,
Oh
down
my
the turn
God.
lane, like the emergency lane or, whatever in the
Yeah.
center. And I go all the way to Energy, just ripping wheelies. No, no cops. There ain't no cops.
That's so
So I
shocking.
cut out on a College Road and I could get out on Bosquedale, which is where our buddy wrecked his bike. Like I wrecked right past where our buddy a year
Oh
ago
yeah.
wrecked his bike. So I'm coming up on that stretch right there and I'm just riding wheelies and I had no back brakes or anything, no wheelie bar, but I just love floating wheelies. And this dude that's riding on back, he was good. So we're filming it, trying to get some footage of me riding wheelies.
God.
And as I come over, I go to pass a car. I'm in a wheelie. I come around the car, and as I go over the train tracks right there, it comes way back to like 12 o'clock. And I pull in the clutch and let it drag to get it to come back down. And the dude thought that I wanted him to pull back. He thought, I needed him to pull back, and he pulled back, and we go over backwards.
Oh
And we
no.
were cruising. We were probably going like 50 or 60 at least.
Jeez.
And it was like a fourth gear wheelie. I just get it up because those Raptors could just float.
Yeah.
They had a real big sweet spot. So we come over backwards, and the dude didn't let go of his legs. He kept holding on, and I drug him for like so far. His whole back, from the top to his tailbone, was just
Oh
road
my
rash, just
God.
meat.
You didn't
And
jump off the four-wheeler? Like you were still on
no,
it?
I held on like a monkey up on the gas tank.
Oh my
So,
God.
and he fell back, but he didn't let go of his
Right.
feet. He was just dragging. And then we slowed down to about like 15 mile an hour, I would say. And he's got the camcorder the whole
Oh
time,
my God.
dragging. And at about 15 mile an hour, the four-wheeler turned a little bit and started
Oh
flipping.
my God.
And that's when I flipped off. And the handlebars are all bent. So the camera goes sliding down the road and it's spinning like a top. And you can see me go over in the footage. I pick it
I
up,
wish you
but
had it.
I do too. Like in the footage, I pick it up and it's like shining straight up at my face, and I'm like looking around. And the car that I had just passed pulls up, and dude's like laid out on the road, like all bloody and
Oh
stuff.
my
And they were
God.
stopping, and I'm yelling at the car, like, "We're fine, go, leave us alone, go, we're fine." And I flip my four-wheeler over, and it's all messed up. And I'm like, dude's screaming
Oh
again, you know.
yeah.
I like put him on the four-wheeler, and I rode right off where that pumpkin patch is,
Yeah.
right back there and off the back of the hill, and had to call for help I had to get off the road, you know. I
Did you
knew
take him to the hospital?
somebody else did.
Oh my
I called for
God.
help and was like, "Hey, you gotta come get this guy.
Yeah.
He's hurt."
Oh God,
But I
that's
remember
horrible.
his back was like from top to bottom,
Oh,
road rash, and I had like 3 wrecks right there. The other one was
it's a
when
dangerous road.
I had dude and we broke our collarbones.
Yeah,
So those all happened in
the
like,
same area.
yeah, like same area in just a few months.
Maybe it's the driving.
I
Maybe
just
it was your
having too
driving.
good of a time.
Jesse dated one of my friend's sisters like years before I met him, and she was a pretty, like good kid. Didn't realize how bad Jesse was. My friend would be like, or maybe she was telling us like, every time Jesse borrows my car, it was like a little like Mazda 3.
Yeah.
There's always like sticks stuck in the front and like clods of mud. I don't know what he's doing in my car. And like we didn't either. We were young. I was probably like 14
Right.
hearing that story. I didn't know you. And now that I know this, it's funny because you were literally
I
like
was out Baja on that
off-roading in
shit.
her, and she
Yeah.
was too silly to be like,
Yeah.
dude, you're off-roading
I'd
in
go
my
through
little
the car
car.
wash, but the undercarriage would always
Yeah,
tell the
she
tale.
said she was to tell us like, there's always so much stuff stuck into the front of my car.
Right. So back to the tow stories.
Oh yeah.
So that was the one. On a different occasion, I had a buddy call me and he's like, "Hey, I got my car impounded, but there's a shoebox in the trunk that's got $2,000. If you'll go get it out of the tow yard, I'll give you like $500." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'll go get that shit." So my girlfriend at the time had this little prelude, and she takes me out to this tow yard. It's like 2 in the morning. She drops me off. I go out, I get in the trunk, I get the money, I come back, I get in the car, and as we're leaving, the tow man comes down the road right as we're pulling off from his place, and he like blocks the road, and we go off in the ditch and get around
Oh
him.
my God.
Yeah, and we get away. Didn't think nothing about it. Fast forward like 2 months later, me and my good buddy Dennis Gibbons, who's now deceased,
Poor
another
Dennis.
friend that's dead, we're coming back from Carbondale after a house party one night, and we're in this little prelude. So Dennis was a little bit husky. I was a little crackhead. Probably weighed like 100. He was probably like 250 or
Yeah.
something. And we had the sunroof open coming down 13. And we both get up out of the top of the car and we're sitting on top of the car for whatever
That's
reason.
crazy. It's like a little bitty
little
sports
bitty
car.
Yeah, we're like jamming to music. And when Dennis gets up there and sits, the sunroof shatters. And the girl that's driving like slams on the brakes going like 55.
Oh my
And luckily
God.
our legs were down low enough that when she slammed on the brakes, we both flew forward and hit the windshield, but we didn't fly
Yeah,
out of the car. It
out.
caught
Oh
us like at the
God.
waist. And so she's bitching and yada yada yada. We broke her sunroof, which I'm sure it was expensive. And I'm like, just take us to his house, which is at 10 Oaks. Or is that what it's called?
Yeah, the
So,
apartments.
yeah, the apartments. So she drops us off. We're all wasted. And she leaves. She's going down Samuel Road. But she calls me and she's bitching. And I'm like, just come back or whatever. And the girl that's driving, instead of like doing a 3-point turnaround in the road, like on the asphalt, she just like turns and goes off in this big ass ditch
Oh my God.
to where like the front half of her car's in the ditch and the back half's like up in the air. So she tells me, she's like, "I'm stuck." And I said that. It's like a good impersonation of her.
Yeah, she's like a ditzy.
Yeah. So she's like, "I'm stuck." So I take off running down the road. I run like a mile down the road. as I'm running up, I can see her little car sticking up. It's like 2 in the morning. I'm like, fuck. So I get down there and I'm like, all right, let me think here. I was like, let me call the tow man because I know the guy that owns the yard that I got the money out of. So I'm like, let me call the tow man and see if he'll come out. Well, it takes him till like 5 in the morning to get there. Like multiple
Jeez.
cars had come by and stopped, and they're like, "You need help?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, I might come back." Nobody ever come back,
Right.
but no cops came. But the tow man comes, and it's like just getting daylight, and he pulls up and he looks, and I was like, "Hey, man," he knows who I am, you know. And I was like, "Hey, man, sorry, dummy over here drove off in the ditch," and he goes. I ain't towing that car out of the ditch. He goes, fucking skank stole that car out of my lot. He thought that
No.
we had taken the car out of his tow yard that night that
And
we had
stolen an
left.
actual whole car.
Yeah, he didn't
Oh,
realize I was getting money out of a trunk. He thought I had taken a whole car out of his lot.
dang.
He was like, fucking skanks stole that car out of my lot. And he
And
just
he
drives
left.
off. Yeah, he just drives off. And he had like an 80s model flatbed, you know, like a whole piece of shit. And he just drives off. So now she's on the phone. I remember she's on the phone with her brother, and he's like, he was older. I was like 18, and he's probably like 23 or whatever. He's like, I'm gonna beat Jesse up when I get there. And I was like, you're on your own. I remember I took off across the field and walked how far from my parents' house that is, but
Oh my
probably like 2 to 3
gosh. At
miles.
least.
Yeah. I was
That's
like, well,
funny.
sounds like you got this covered. Your brother's on his way. No cops ever came. Her
That's
brother came,
surprising that no one
got her
called the
out.
cops.
Yeah.
But you didn't have cell phones like that so
Right.
much. Not everyone had a phone.
Trail
So.
cameras and
You're
like the
right.
cop cars had like one light on the top that
Yeah.
went around.
Different times.
Yeah,
Nowadays, you'd
so
have like 20 cops there. Everybody would have
for
called.
sure.
Golly, what a stressful life.
So that's some of my tow stories. I've got more, but we'll save those for another
Lots of
date
tow
and
truck
time.
stories.
Yeah. Okay, another time with me and my one-eyed buddy Cyclops, we're coming back from doing a dirty deed. We're in my red S10 SS that's got the bed cover on it, and it's just loaded down. We're in all camo. We stink like to high heavens of starting fluid,
Oh.
and we're coming down 166 coming from Curl Springs,
Mm-hmm.
and I blew a freeze plug on my truck. I'm like, oh fuck, like smoke's coming out, water, my truck's getting hot.
Oh no.
We got all this illegal stuff in the truck. I'm like, oh shit. So we pull over and we call a tow guy. I remember, and he came with a flatbed and he loads us up, and we get up in the front of the truck with him. He's got like a whole lab on his tow truck, and we're in the front with him, and we're in camo, and we just stink. Like I
Oh
had to
my
roll the window down
God.
because we
'Cause you
stunk
guys
like
smell
chemicals
so
so
bad.
bad. Yeah, and he was just like, well, what are you boys out doing, squirrel hunting? And we're like, yeah, we're squirrel hunting, buddy.
Oh my
He
God,
took
poor
us to my
guy.
parents' house.
Holy crap, transported something so illegal and
Yeah,
dangerous.
right
Like,
through town.
oh my God, that's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
No, that's nuts.
So that was another tow story.
Yeah, you've got so many. I'm
The
serious.
time that I had the tow guy drop the car off, remember?
Oh yeah, you told that story down at the drug house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to know a lot of the tow guys.
That's so funny.
The
I think
one-
that's abnormal.
That tow guy's the one that flipped his car like 17
Oh
times after
yeah.
he kicked me.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got shot a couple years ago.
Right. You talked
Yeah.
about that.
That's crazy.
You have lots of tow truck driver
So
friends.
it's always good to know a tow truck driver.
Yeah.
That way they can get you out of a bind. Things
Yeah.
are going wrong. Just call the tow man. He'll show up and help you out. So that's crazy stories for the night. But as far as business goes, we are just wheels spinning, heads spinning from daylight to dark, busy. I think
Which
it's
isn't
good.
like a bragging thing.
Yeah, it's not bragging. It's like
Difficult.
difficult busy. So we have finished this big project behind Ellie here, where we have that tar well, and this one. We've done a great job on that project. We've been there for what, a year and a half?
Yeah.
So that one came to an end. It always comes to an end a lot quicker than you expect. You know, like we backfilled that really quick.
Yeah.
We didn't mess around, and that project came to an end. So now I'm back in the office.
Which he's actually never been.
I've never been. It's
Like,
usually
yeah, Jesse's always been on a tractor all day, and evenings and weekends he'll do work with me. Like I'll work in the office, and then I'm like, okay, here's what we have to work on tonight. But it's been good. So Jesse's actually focusing for a few weeks on just being in the office so we can work on commercial bids
yes.
because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of
a
work.
lot of work. It takes a lot of time finding the jobs, and then once you find ones you're even maybe interested in, combing through all the documents and finding all the little, there's so many little rules and like certifications.
Certifications.
Like there's some jobs that we can't do because we haven't got certified with this thing with the state, which would cost a fortune, and it's going to take months. So, all right, well, we can't do that one. Well, you'll be spend an hour looking into it before you even realize that. It's not like they're
Right.
advertising that up front. You got to like dig into the bid
I've
to
been
find out
driving
some of this
all over
stuff.
the state. One day I
Literally.
went up by Chicago, came back down, went over by St. Louis. Or
Yeah.
no, I went to Peoria,
It's
then
an
I went over by
all-day
St.
event.
Louis. I drove 4.5 hours, look at a job, and then I drive 2.5 hours back towards home, I thought. And when I got to that
It's
job, I
sort of
looked at,
west.
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
west, and I looked at how far home was, and I was 4 hours and 15 minutes away. I
Yeah.
was like, what the hell?
But it's just what you got to do because you
Yeah.
got to get eyes on these jobs. We bid a big Army Corps of Engineer job in Idaho,
Iowa.
Iowa,
Yep.
and Jesse went there to look at that. So that was like a big
What did we get on that
extravaganza.
one? Like fourth?
Huh?
What position?
Yeah, so I think there were 8 or 9 companies that bid, and we were fourth lowest, which I was obviously I'd rather have won, but I was pretty happy with that. It was a
Right.
ton of work. Like I was working every night, reading all the fine print, looking all that stuff up on the computer. Jesse had to go to
Iowa.
Iowa. Yeah, I don't know why I want to say Idaho. It was Iowa,
Is
which
it
is
Idaho
what?
or Idaho?
Shut up. Um, what was that, like a 7-hour
It's like
drive?
7 hours. I
And
had
then
to
so
go
we stayed
stay there.
overnight. Yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, it was a whole thing. And then we didn't win it. And that just sucks every
it does. It's
time.
like playing the lotto. You put all this
It
time
is
in,
so much time for no return.
yeah,
So it's been
and
kind
money.
of brutal. Yeah, time and money. So it's been good though, I think, having you in the office. And I feel like we're accomplishing a lot and getting a lot of bids in and finding a lot of good opportunities.
Right. So we are woman-owned certified federal, which
Hmm.
is why I was looking at those core projects. And then we have around here local been bidding, and there's like a lot of contractors that have been staples for years since
Hmm.
my grandpa was doing it. Sierra Bravo and my grandpa used to bid jobs back
That's
in the
crazy. That's
70s,
so
and there's still a
wild.
good company
Yeah,
that we're bidding against now.
that's
I bet
wild.
they saw my grandpa like when he retired, and then he went, May Excavating went like 20 years without bidding anything.
Right. Like they closed their business entirely and retired long
Right.
before we
And then we
started
started
it
it
up.
back up. I bet that guy's like, son of a bitch. It's like a thorn in the side.
Yeah, like they're back.
Like a case of herpes that won't go away.
Ew. But yeah, other people too, people say that all the time. They'll be like, "Man, excavating," like they know it, like older,
Yeah,
construction guys. And I have to explain, like, well, it's the same family but different businesses.
right,
But yeah, but there are a bunch of good companies around, and which we've talked about, like, it's not obviously it's your competitors. You're trying to get the job, but I read a good quote last week that I loved, and it said, people at the bottom are competing
yeah,
and the people at the top are collaborating.
right.
And that's kind of like what we always talk about. Like, we
Mhm.
don't feel like we have enemies and like bad blood between other excavators because even though we're bidding on jobs against each other, we are all for using them for different services, subbing stuff out, vice versa, and building those good relationships. And
Right,
so, and that's what it seems like with the bigger commercial jobs. Um, Getting to know those companies, the
right,
bigger companies that have been doing this longer, and seeing where you can help them and they can help you, and working
right,
together and collaborating. Like that's where you make big business moves, and that's where you make better money, like because you're
right.
working together.
Yeah, because to have a company that's got everything, they're really big. For us, we're kind of small, but we
Hmm.
have good operators and we have good work ethic. So even the
Yeah.
big companies, they have a bunch of stuff, but they might not have a lot of guys that have the skills that we provide.
Yes.
So,
That's something like so notable about you specifically is that, and that's why it's hard to decide where Jesse's best needs to fit in our company, which I think equipment, obviously, he wouldn't want to be in the office all the time, but you don't always see a lot of guys or women that are excellent, exceptional operators or good at whatever trade, and they also can do a great job in the office. Like you're really smart with numbers and the bid stuff, and like obviously I do a lot of that, like the nitty-gritty, annoying reading stuff, but some people would never set foot in an office and look at a computer, and you're able to like do all that and work with me on it. And I think that is just brings so much value to our company. And then having your brother as such a skilled operator too,
Hmm.
which I don't think Dave would ever want to ever sit in the office.
It's brutal. The office is
It's
brutal,
tough. But like I just think a lot of operators, it's like that's where they want to be, and they would never step foot out of a tractor because that's what they enjoy.
right.
And when they get good at it, that's what they want to be doing. And you do too. But I like you're saying though, I think we have a lot of value in being a small company with skilled labor, and also you guys are smart and can literally like run a job. Like we could send David or you, and you guys aren't just there to, what do they say, like pull levers or whatever. Like you guys are paying attention to everything going on. You're going to make suggestions that make sense. You're going to work quickly. You're efficiently like,
When I go to a different job site that's not ours or I'm around other operators, I always think of it not like competition, like yada yada. I'm not letting somebody outwork me though. If I see a guy
oh
doing
yeah,
real good, I'm like taking offense to him.
like
Like, oh,
how
son
much
of a
dirt can I
bitch.
move?
Yeah.
Like watch this, buddy.
Like all day long, it's like me busting ass just so this son of a bitch don't move more dirt than me, or you know what I
You
mean?
take pride in what you're doing.
Yeah,
And David's that way too. Like you guys aren't going to be lazy or like try to stretch out the time clock,
right.
stuff like that, which not everyone does, but a lot of people do.
You get on these some of these commercial jobs and it's like, holy cow, that dude's just been sitting in there for 4 hours not doing
Not
nothing,
wanting to do
not
anything.
wanting to do nothing. Like there's so many things that can be done with that machine he's in
Hmm.
just to make this process go further.
Yeah.
Like there might be a little spoil pile over here that could be consolidated or picked up or whatever. And instead they'll just wait and then later you got to go back to it and do it anyways. So
Yeah.
we're always looking for what can be done to make because the goal is to get the job done
Hmm.
fast, on time, with great quality.
Hmm.
So, because you don't want to have
Safely.
to come back safely. Yeah, safety is always number one. But the main thing is time is money. So if you're on that clock, and especially like us, we're union scale or union wage, and we make a little bit more than union wage.
Hmm.
So if we're sitting there doing nothing, that's somebody's paying $100 or $200 an hour for this machine to not do nothing. I take offense to that.
Sickening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We
and
wouldn't
so
want to
does,
waste our own money. We don't want to waste anyone else's money either.
right. And that's how you get more work. That's why we always stay busy because then people are seeing that and they're
Hmm.
like, okay, at least this guy. Because I feel like the cell phones, don't get me wrong, I might have my phone playing music with earbuds in, but I'm not just sitting there staring at it. I might have the phone entertaining while I'm working with one earbud or
But
something.
like you're not worried if you're getting texts and calls, you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
I'm not
I can get
scrolling.
back to them.
I'm not
Like it'll
scrolling
be okay.
Facebook while I'm on the clock or while I'm working. It's just not something we
I
do.
think they've made it cell phones, and I'm terrible at this. Like you feel like you have to respond, and a lot of people, even if you're in a tractor, it's like they hear that go off or feel it buzz, and they're like, you can't take it. Like I'm like that. I feel like I have to get back to people right away, or I'll forget, which I really do, and then we'll never respond. So it's like, but it's not always. That's not a good thing because you need to be working and focused, and then it's like pulling you away every 20 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is, and
Right.
I don't know. It's definitely that's the labor force across the board for any job.
Yep.
That's the problem, I
Yeah,
think.
it's not just operators or
Right.
laborers, that's everywhere. Like I'll go to a gas station nowadays and the woman's sitting there
Yeah.
scrolling her phone, I'm like waiting to pay. I'm
Hello.
like, what's going on here? Oh,
It's
hold on.
weird.
They're like, whatever. But so there's that going on. We have in the last couple weeks been bidding the crap out of some work.
Hmm.
The problem with the state work that we see is that like if we bid something for a city or whatnot, you can go to the bid opening and they'll read out loud whose prices are what.
Hmm.
But with the state and federal work, you do it on the internet, you submit the bid, and then
Like
it's
goes
just
into the
radio
abyss.
silence. Yeah, it's radio silence. Like the bid opening will come, and then you can message them a week later and be like, "Hey, who
And
won?"
eventually they'll put it up on the internet on their sites eventually. But like
Right.
I literally emailed I think it was a state job like a week after the bid opening because we didn't hear anything, asking for it's called a bid tabulation where it shows everybody's bid. And the guy acted like he didn't know what I was talking about, but that's like what it's called. But he was like,
Right.
"What exactly is it you're looking for?" And I'll see if I can help you. And I was like, "The bid tab. Like I'm just wanting to know." I assumed we didn't win because I hadn't heard back. But I'm like, I'm wanting to know what other companies bid and what their prices were at, so I know where we fell, if we're close,
Mhm.
if we're way out. I just you want to know where your bids are
Right.
compared to everybody else. Um, and he just never responded. Like, but he
It's
was
crazy.
acting like he didn't know what a bid tab was, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
He's on Google like bid
but
tab.
it's because they must not do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like his department, it was DNR. I don't remember which state agency. maybe they don't send those out. They just
Right.
put the winning bid and that's it. So I'm like, this is so crazy.
Everything's different.
Everything's different.
Yeah.
And every organization requires like different paperwork. I've talked to some wonderful state workers though too, because they realize that. I'm like, okay, we bid a job for this department and I needed this form, whatever, and this form, whatever. And I don't see that on your list, but I want to make sure I'm not like missing something. And the guy was like, that's a valid question because there's like 5 different state agencies that you might bid work for, and every single one requires some of the same paperwork and some different. He's like, so for me, I don't need those 3 forms, but make sure you have this form. I'm like, all right, I'm just double checking, you know, because it's a lot. It's crazy. And then they'll change. Like today, I was about to send off this bid, 45 pages long, all the documents we had to sign and check boxes on and stuff. And they had changed the date that you had to start the job after the notice to proceed from 25 days to 13. So they had uploaded a new form that stated that, which I thought I had printed. And I was always look over my stuff like a million times. So I had already attached it to this email, about to send it. And I was like, I'm just going to look at it one more time. And I had the original page 1 of 25 days, which is incorrect. So if we had won, they probably would have thrown the bid out.
Right.
It's
Just
like
little
little
bitty
things.
hiccups can mess you up.
It's crazy. And I was like, Jesse, I almost just sent the wrong. I got to rescan this whole thing in because it's like the wrong front page.
Right.
So yeah, it takes a lot of detailed time and like little, I don't know. It's wild.
I was talking, and the numbers are getting cut down. I don't know if it's the economy or what, but 20% profit is pretty decent, and like that's something that I had been hearing that the commercial's going for. Some jobs get up to like 30-35%. But my cousin was talking with a bigwig earlier today, and he was talking about it. And the guy was telling him, he's like, man, some of these jobs, he's like, I've been talking with the contractors, and some of these jobs are bidding at 3%.
And like the margin for things that pop up in error, I'll call it, is so, I mean, it's so easy in a construction site.
On $100,000 job, that's
So
$3
like,
grand.
like that's nothing.
Come
And all
on.
it takes is one little screw up, a rain day, a freaking
Right.
one issue with one little supplier, and now your whole profit's gone. But yeah, it's not even worth it.
It's not even worth
3
it.
grand. Like, what's that
Right.
gonna pay? Nothing.
That's crazy. So hopefully we just keep,
Good
we've been
Lord.
in there getting second. We got first on a couple. We won the box culvert that they didn't award us, but then we did win some sidewalk replacement that we got. And then we bid that boat ramp and we got second on it. And I'm doing it like I'm calling, get material price. I'm figuring up, the labor rates and then the fuel, like everything down to the workman's comp, insurance,
Everything, yeah.
and then putting my bid together. When we're working with a new bonding company, and they asked us, well, what software do you use to bid? And Lisa's like, they want to know what software you use. And I'm like, pen and paper? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
was like, I don't even know what to say. And the
Yeah,
thing
we're
is,
old school.
I know, and I know the value in not so much it helping you bid because I don't see the value in that because you're gonna have to do all the legwork anyway, I think.
Right.
But like the job cost tracking part, because I'm
Mhm.
sure us tracking stuff isn't totally accurate as to what it really comes out to for the profit on jobs. Like it
Right.
makes sense to have something tracking all that, but still, you're still inputting everything and like
You still got, yeah, it's
you
more
still
like
gotta
a
have someone.
spreadsheet, I think,
Yeah,
that you can use to
I'm
put it
sure.
together.
Yeah, but yeah, they wanted to know that, and I'm like, well, shit, nothing right now, buddy. Like we're just
Yeah.
it's our heads and our pad of paper and our pen.
So yeah, we need to stay on top of our costs because that's something now that we've got a bunch of stuff now, like
Yeah.
between the different businesses that we're running, it's like trying to keep track of everything.
So that's what we haven't even talked about our new business.
Right. Let me finish talking
Oh,
about
sorry.
excavating a
Go
little bit
ahead.
because I also, on top of stressing about, okay, we gotta get these jobs, and I mean, we're getting jobs, but it's just like I kind of waited till the last minute to book up
We
because we
weren't
finished.
sure
I
though. Like
wasn't
we didn't
sure,
sure
yeah.
about the time frame, so we didn't want to win a job and then be like, all right, you need to start in 14 days, and we're like,
Right, because
we're tied up.
you get a notice to proceed, and you got like 10 days to start the
Yeah,
job.
each one's
So
different. Sometimes it's
yeah,
longer, but yeah, some of them are 10 days, 14 days.
at the
Like,
time, I was 100% committed to finishing this big project
right.
that we'd been on. So when it got closer, then I start bidding work. Well, it takes a lot longer than that.
Months.
It takes months. Well, for example, the one we got the sidewalk, we bid it 3 months ago.
Yeah, and
It's
we
probably
still
been,
haven't
and
got the notice to proceed. Like
yeah,
I sent back the signed contract.
yeah,
It's
we're
just
still
like
waiting
a
on the
waiting
contract on
game.
that. So it's just real tricky. Like we've got enough bids out now that if they all came back at once, we'd be,
Ooh,
oh crap,
if we
now we
want
got
them
to
all,
figure out how to get
we'd
all
be in
these
a
jobs done
pickle.
in 2024.
Yeah.
But over the weekend, Friday, I was, and this is something good for, smaller companies, which we are. I was just on Facebook and there's this local auction that comes around 4 times a year. It's seasonal. So I looked on there and I needed some cones. And I'd been looking at the stores and online, and the cones I need are like $40 a piece with tax. I'm like, damn, that's a lot. So
For a cone.
for a
Like, come on.
cone, and I need
Last
like
time we bought cones, they all got stolen at the job site. So
that
it's
night,
like
the first night, I
makes
went
it
and bought
hard to
like,
really spend a lot on some crap like
yeah,
that.
I went and bought like 36 cones, and I left them out because you have to have them, blocking the road or to shut down a lane. Come back the next morning, every single cone was gone. It was like $1,000 in cones. I'm
Yeah.
like, son of a gun.
So anyway.
So I needed some cones. I need some cones. And I saw this auction had stacks of these cones. So I'm like, I'm going to go to this auction. Ellie's like, okay, don't spend no money, too much money. Okay, well, it is so hard when you get that card in your hand and that that guy's just da 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 da. I can't even understand what the hell he's saying. But that card starts shooting up, man. And then once you start bidding on something, they got these guys that like work for the auction. So they're, yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're like pointing at you, yeah. And then as the bid gets higher, and you start slowing down, they start saying shit like, come on, you can do it. You
Do
can do it.
they?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Stop
They're like,
it.
you can do it. And you're like, you know what? I can't fucking do it.
That
You
is
raise that
so
card. Yeah.
funny.
Or they're like, you're not going to back out now, are you?
You'd be good at that job.
Yeah.
That should be your retirement
Oh,
job.
they were getting me. But I got a lot of good stuff. So I got a brand new skid steer attachment broom. Like the big box throws the stuff in because all these jobs were bid in the commercial. You got to be able to keep the roads swept and clean. I needed that. I got a smooth drum roller for the skid steer, which we had a sheep's foot, but I needed a smooth drum.
Yeah.
I got that. I got a new set of pallet forks, which we have a set, but fuck, like I said, the damn things seemed cheap enough that I needed to get them. And then a land plane, which is on the skid steer for driveways or gravel work. And it's got hydraulic scar fires that come down and chew it up. So I've been wanting one for a long time, and I finally got one. And then I almost didn't even get the cones because they were like at the end of the auction. Like I went and paid for everything, loaded up, or no, I didn't pay. I went and loaded all the attachments I'd bought up. I'd went home and got a trailer. I didn't even take a trailer because I was gonna get cones.
Right, you didn't need it.
I won all this stuff. So then I left, went an hour away or 45 minutes, got my trailer, went back up there, loaded it all up, and they still didn't make it to the cones.
Jeez.
So I stopped at the food truck, got me a big fish taco, and worked my way over there. And I got 36. Now these cones are $40 a piece. I got 36 cones for $220.
Nice.
And they're brand new in the package,
That's
pretty
awesome.
much. So auctions are a good thing to check into. Make sure you've got a check with you.
Right.
Because all I had was the business card and they charged me 4%.
That sucks.
And then don't forget they got a buyer's premium, which was like
Mm-hmm.
10%. Because I had it all figured up in my head of how much I spent, which was like, I don't know, $5,000. But I still, even with what I
still
spent,
made
I
out
got a
way
hell of a
ahead.
deal. And then I go to cash out and it was like 6,300.
Damn.
And I was like, damn, I figured that up $5,000. But whatever.
That's okay.
I was bidding on side by sides. Like they had a side by side. My buddy was with me. He's like, man, I like that side by side. I was like, fuck it, I'll get it for you. I was like, you pay me back.
I'll just buy it all.
Yeah, I was like,
Jesse
well,
texted me. I was at the fair and I got a parade with our kids. He's like, raise my credit limit because like our bank puts a limit on how much you can spend every day so you don't get fraud, He's like, call the bank ASAP and raise the limit to X. And then he called later. He's like, I think I have to use the American Express because like
I was like, I
the
went
bank will
over the
only go
limit.
so high without a signature on a debit card.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that's fine. You got plenty of room on there.
Yeah. So we came back smiling ear to ear. I got lots of equipment that will last years that I've been needing, like that smooth drum roller. I'd rather go to Easy Rental and rent their little ride on, or that's pretty much it. I just rent their little ride-ons, and those things are like 30 grand or 25
Damn.
grand to buy. And the ones I've been renting have been breaking down a lot. So
Right.
I'll go to Easy Rental, leave the job site, pick up the roller, get it back, and it doesn't run right anyways. So, and then I take it back,
Waste of half a day.
waste of time. So now I've got a smooth drum vibrating roller that goes on my skid steer. So that's sweet.
Yeah, the auction was good. That worked out good.
So use auctions.
Yeah.
On to our next business. Next number of business that we got. We talked about how
I
we
don't think we did.
all
No.
right.
I think
So
that's
we've
before we
started
passed.
yet another business. You want to tell them, Ellie?
Carterville Safe Storage, an extension of our properties business.
Yes, we bought a storage facility. It's got a 2-story building with indoor storage, and then it's got outdoor storage
I
that
think
go up
it's
to what, 10 by 20?
really, yeah, we have 10 by 20s. We have a 16 by 30 garage, but it's
Yeah,
rented now. But yeah, so we have the inside ones are more like what you call kind of mini. I don't know. There's bigger ones there too,
yeah,
mini
there's some big
storage,
ones.
but they start as small as like a 4 by 3 and then go all the way up. I think there might even be a 10 by 17 inside,
I
but
think so. I
10 by
opened the
12.
door on one the other day and it was huge.
Yeah, so but there's smaller ones. So people that just don't want to spend a fortune but need some space, you can get like, a 4 by 9 or something. I don't know the price off the top of my head, but um reasonably priced up. So starting from $20 up to 85,
Right.
you can get different size units. So we've been wanting to get into storage units for a long time. It's kind of like the car wash, kind of like the laundromat ideas that we've had, but we've never seen one that made sense financially. And then the cost to build didn't make sense. And we were just you don't want to rush businesses just because you think it's a good business and that's a good idea. You still got to wait till everything aligns.
Hmm.
And this is actually, I thought we talked about this, but I guess I just talked to a friend about it.
We were vague about it, I think.
So this falls so much into whenever you're like you have a plan for yourself and you think like this is the path we want to go. And for example, we talked about that auction building that we won on auction in Heron, and we were like all about it because we wanted to buy an office for my excavating, and it had bays and it needed a ton of work.
Ton. And
And
we
then
overpaid at the
yeah, like
auction.
we were upset for what our winning bid was, and then the
Yes.
owner had the right to refuse the bid and wanted like another 100
He
grand.
wanted like 150 for
And
it.
we
And we
wanted at like
wanted,
62, and we're like,
yeah,
hell no. Like, are you crazy? So
it
but we
needed
were
gutted.
mad. Like we were upset about it. And it was like disappointing, all the negative emotions because you're like set on this, you think you want it, it's great. But then Jesse was like, well, we still need an office space. And he's like, I saw this little office downtown Carterville, our hometown, with a for rent sign in it. Why don't we rent that for 6 months while we look for a building to buy? And I was like, I don't know if I want to rent a place. He's like, I'll ask him, he'll do 6 months. And I'm like, okay, fine. This nice owner of this office and the storage units that surrounded it.
Who I've known since I was a little kid.
Yeah, vaguely though. It's like you
Yeah,
knew him back then and
right.
then we haven't seen him in 20 years or longer, but
But boy, did they remember me.
everybody does. But so he agreed to a 6-month lease. So we rent this little office space till we find something to buy was the game plan. We keep looking for a commercial building to purchase. And while we're talking to the owner of the office one day, Jesse says to him, like, well, if you ever decide you want to sell some of your storage units, we want to get into that business. And he
Yeah.
kind of thought
He
about
said
it.
no at first. So
He's like, well,
our office is connected to the storage units, and then there's also another building that's got a dog grooming place in it.
yeah.
So I was like, hey, you want to sell all this stuff? I always ask everybody.
Doesn't hurt. You
Yeah,
can't, the worst someone says is no.
right,
To throw out your thoughts and ideas and let people know what you'd like, or because you just never know what people are going to say.
right.
But he was kind of like, I don't know about all that type of, but he wasn't like, heck no, you're crazy. He was like, And then what did he call you like a week later after he talked to
Yeah, a
his
couple
wife?
couple weeks later, he messaged and he's like, maybe we would sell. I don't even know if we ever came up with a price at first.
I think you guys talked on the phone because you were like, I think he said this price, and I'm
Hmm.
not sure if that's right. And I was like, I
Right,
hope that's right because that's what I'd buy it for.
right.
But so it's a super nice couple, and it was cool because they own like a trade service type business like us, similar, and then also did the storage units and just, have kids, and husband and wife work together, and they're really, really nice people. And so it was nice getting to know them more, like
Hmm.
in business and taking business advice from them and stuff. But then it worked out. And so we bought these storage units. And if the auction building hadn't fallen through,
Yeah, we would
this
have never
never
bought
would
the
have come up. We
right.
never would have gotten what we've been wanting, which is storage units. So it's like when things go south, you definitely can't dwell on that because you never know what God's plan is. Like he's steering you the direction you need to be going.
Right.
And I really believe that.
Yeah. So now we've got storage units. We got my excavating office. We got another office space that's rented out for dog grooming
Hmm.
place. We're downtown. Our office is
It's been
downtown.
nice. It's been
It's been
fun.
nice.
I didn't think I would like not working out of my home office because I can get stuff done while I'm home, but I'm actually,
Well, Ethan went to school
yeah, our
this year.
youngest went full time to kindergarten. He was just like part-time preschool daycare last year. So that was, a luxury for me to spend the extra time with him. But so now 5 days a week he's at school. So yeah, it's going great. And I finally hired someone full time to help me between both the businesses and personal errand stuff too, which she's
Mhm.
been great. So she helped us with the storage unit stuff and a friend. We have some friends that run it. So I had lunch with her and she gave me some tips, on getting going. But it's
Right.
definitely been crazy.
It's been crazy.
It's crazy switching over a business from one company to a new one and like with people that pay monthly and you got to like let them all know and get everything changed over. Like it's been a lot of
Yeah.
work.
Some people just moved out just because new owners, I guess.
Yeah,
Like
like we
we
didn't change anything.
closed and didn't change nothing. Like the prices all stayed the same. Only thing we changed is we want auto pay because we don't have the time or the
To
want
like
to track people
track
down
down,
every
yeah.
month. So we're making it mandatory auto pay or 6 month in advance you pay up.
Right.
And that's just what we want to do with our business. And like, I don't know, we probably lost like 10
Be
or 20.
disappearing in the night.
Yeah, like
They're not even
we'll
telling
come up
us.
there in the morning and there's like 3 more units that are empty.
Like,
Like,
what the hell's happening?
but
But it's
they'll fill it back
fine.
up. We
I'm
got
not worried.
lots of great people in our hometown that will need storage. They'll fill
Yeah.
back up. I mean, it's still profitable, but
Yeah,
we
obviously you want them
just,
full. But it's cool the downtown building that is part of our storage units, there's indoor units on the lower level, but then there's an upstairs behind a storage unit door, like a
it's like
secret
a secret little
hideaway.
speakeasy.
Yeah, and it's this old because the building was built in 1897. So it's like a really cool old building with all its history. It was an opera house, and then it was
Lumber mill when it
it
started.
started as a lumber mill.
Yeah,
And then it was an opera house. It was the Starlight Lounge, I think during the Prohibition
yeah,
upstairs. And then it was a theater, and then it was a private Eagles club
right.
and stuff like that. So it's just a really cool, huge space upstairs that hasn't been renovated at all. Like the stage is still
Yeah,
there.
like it's still got like purple light bulbs from
Who
the
knows
70s
when? Yeah.
probably when it was like their version of black light bulbs and it's just a big stage and a big ballroom.
It's a neat space. So
So,
we hope to eventually, which that'll be down the road, 'cause who has time for that? Like update it, renovate it, and do something with
yeah,
it because it's just so cool.
it's just a big space that we're going to use. I'm trying to make it a contractors club
Yeah.
to where you pay a membership fee and then put a big bar up there. Not that Lisa would let me, but if a guy wanted to come to his club, he could rent a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20 unit, pull his car inside, close the door, come up to the club.
A real secret hideaway.
Yeah, have a little speakeasy
Yeah.
or whatever it would be called.
I don't know about all that.
So we're real busy. We got multiple buildings, multiple businesses, multiple bids going on at once.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's good. It's a
Yeah.
good life.
And we don't take it for granted. It
Yeah.
could all come tumbling down, but we've done it long enough that we know there's highs and lows and we can get through it. So
Yeah.
we're not worried about nothing.
Yeah, you can't have fear. You just have to keep moving forward. Things will work out as long as you're doing good things and working hard. Then something's got to work out. I mean, that's just how it
Yeah,
goes. Things aren't going to come tumbling down if you're putting the time in.
right. It's whenever you slack and putting in the effort and whatnot. That's when businesses start losing profit or something's going on here. Somebody's skimming money.
Right.
So
You
we're
got
on
to,
it.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That's it.
No, and I think we talk about this a lot. I think going back to like your marriage and your relationships and keeping those strong is super important too, because it's definitely easy to like get angry at your spouse, whether you're in business with them or not, or like take things out on them because they're supposed to, be there through everything. But like, which we do that too sometimes. It's not like Jesse and I don't fight and argue and have like angry altercations about, I mean, being in business together is hard. Um, but you have to like choose it to make that right and make it work and get along and like focus on keeping that strong.
Right.
Like neither of us can be like, I'm stressed, I'm going
Our
out
fights
with
aren't
my
like
friends.
normal marriage fights. I feel like normal marriage fights would be like, I'm leaving you or something. But our fights are like, where the hell's the paper clip? Who took my stapler? Stuff like that.
We have real fights, but it's so bizarre because it's not usually related to our relationship. It's usually about business.
Right,
We're arguing as business partners
right.
about business things because that's stressful. I don't feel like we argue about our marriage or problems because we keep that strong, and that's what I'm saying. because we both pour into our marriage and give each other so much love and confidence and support in our relationship, and we're not like, we're just loyal, and you know what I mean, like that we don't have problems there. And if we were having problems there, this would all fall apart because business is always going to be tough.
I don't think we have time to fight.
No kidding.
Honestly, like by the time the workday's over, we're just like, oh, baby, come here.
Let's go to bed.
Yeah.
Snoring in 3 seconds, like
Right.
out. Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful for I'm grateful for the time that I've had you in the office because I've loved spending more time with you because we really do work a lot. And so sometimes I feel like we're barely seeing each other. We see each other, and talk a lot, but like quality time. But I'm looking forward to what I know is to come, which is when we get these bigger jobs and we have like our evenings back, because I don't want to keep working at night. I hate working after supper and taking away from the kids and stuff, like, or you put Ethan to bed and then have to work. Like, that's brutal, but it's worth it. I'm not even complaining because it's like, I know it's a means to an end and it's going to get us to where we're going. So,
And it's not that bad. Like, it's kind of, we're still together, spending time together, even
right.
if we're on our computers working.
Yes, very true.
I still reach over and squeeze her butt.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks for listening. Reckless Success. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new guest.
Yep.
I don't know who it is yet, but I've got a few people on the roster. All right, guys. See you next time. All right, guys. We're going to wrap up. You can follow us on TikTok and YouTube at reckless.success, Instagram at recklesssuccess. We're on Spotify and all major podcast services. Hit that subscribe button, please. For more information on May Excavating, check out our website or TikTok. That's a wrap. Thanks.